Have you ever told yourself, I'll start tomorrow? It sounds harmless, even smart. Why rush? Why force it? Why not wait for the perfect mood or a better time? But tomorrow is a gentle lie. It promises everything and delivers nothing. This is the story of Arun, a young man who learned slowly, painfully, and then beautifully, that laziness always sends a bill, and the price is your future. Arun lived in a quiet village where mornings began with the smell of wood smoke and the sound of roosters. Fields stretched like green blankets around the houses, and a silver river curled through the trees. Everyone in the village knew how to work. They woke before sunrise, tied their scarves, tightened their belts, and stepped into the day with purpose. Arun knew how to dream. He dreamed of building a small business, of helping his mother replace the broken roof tiles, of traveling to the city and returning with stories that would light the evenings. He dreamed with his eyes open, and most of all, with his eyes closed. When the first light touched his window, his mother would call Arun, "Get up. The morning won't wait for you." He would roll onto his side and smile at the soft pillow. 5 more minutes, he whispered to himself. But 5 minutes is a clever magician. It multiplies when you are not looking. By the time he finally stood up, the sun was higher, the streets were busy, and the day had already taken its first steps without him. He was not foolish, he was not cruel, he was simply comfortable. Comfort is a warm blanket that slowly becomes a heavy chain. If a neighbor asked how his plans were going, he had a calm answer. "I will start tomorrow," he said. "I'm thinking it through." He had many tomorrows. He kept them like shiny coins in his pocket and never spent a single one. Across the lane lived Mr. Ramesh, an old farmer with kind eyes and a back shaped by years of work. He had few possessions, but an abundance of peace. One afternoon he saw Arun resting under the banyan tree, while boys ran past with baskets, and women hurried by with vegetables for the market. "Arun," the old man asked, "why does this tree see you so often in the middle of the day?" "I'm preparing," Arun said with a lazy smile. "I'll do everything tomorrow." "Tomorrow," Mr. Ramesh replied softly, "is a sweet thief. It smiles in your face while it steals your life." Arun laughed and promised to consider the advice. But promises to yourself are like footprints in water. When you do not act, they disappear. The year turned like a wheel. Rain came and softened the soil. The village hummed with planting. Children pressed seeds into the ground the way they press hope into a wish. Men sharpened tools. Women set out young plants, like careful prayers. Arun admired it all from a distance. He had a small plot behind his mother's house. He told himself he would prepare it tomorrow. He said it on a Monday, and again on Tuesday. He said it when the wind was too strong and when the sun was too gentle. He said it during the festival, during the market days, when he was hungry, when he was full. He said it until the season was gone. Harvest arrived, and with it, the music of work. Carts rolled along the road with golden piles of grain. Laughter spilled from doorways. The whole village smelled of effort turned into reward. Arun walked past the fields and saw the results of other people's sweat shining in the light. Then he reached his own plot. Dry soil, stubborn weeds, a narrow path that led to nothing. He stood there for a long time, the silence pressing against his chest. When you fail because of bad luck, you can shake your fist at the sky. When you fail because of laziness, the sky is silent. It gives you nothing to push against but yourself. That evening his mother placed a small bowl of rice on the table and folded her hands. She did not scold him. She did not sigh. She just sat with him in the soft light and looked at the wall where the paint was peeling. Her quiet hurt more than any angry word. After dinner, Arun stepped outside and followed the sound of crickets to the fence that separated his home from Mr. Ramesh's yard. The old man was closing the door of his shed. "Uncle," Arun said, "I think I understand what you meant." The words felt heavy and honest in his mouth. Mr. Ramesh leaned on his stick. "What you understand, my boy? That laziness doesn't just waste time," Arun answered. "It wastes seasons. It wastes chances. It wastes a version of me that could have existed." His voice trembled. "I'm sorry, mostly to myself." The old man nodded. "Regret is a good teacher if you do not let it become your home. Sleep with it only one night. In the morning, show it the door. Tomorrow is not your savior. Today is." He put a small packet of seeds into Arun's hand. "Plant 1 row at dawn. Water it before the sun grows sharp. Do the same the next day. Do it whether you feel like it or not. Feelings are weather. Discipline is climate." Arun closed his fingers around the seeds as if they were warm coins. He went to bed early and lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling. He remembered promising himself soon and later and tomorrow, and realized those words were just soft pillows for a tired mind. He did not want pillows anymore. He wanted a spine. Before the first light, the village still dark and the dogs still dreaming, Arun rose. The floor was cold under his feet. He stepped into the yard where the air smelled like metal and earth. He held the old plow. It felt heavier than he expected, as if it knew his history and did not trust him yet. He set his jaw and pulled. The soil resisted. He pushed again. The blade cut a line. Another line. Another. When the sun came up, it found him with dirt under his nails and sweat in his eyes. His muscles burned, but the burn felt honest. Pain from effort is a kind of music. It is the body singing, "I am alive." He planted one row and watered it. The next day he planted another. He did not wait for motivation. He did not ask the sky for perfect moods or perfect weather. He learned to start and let motivation arrive late, like a guest who always shows up after dinner but brings dessert. At first, people laughed. "The lazy boy is pretending to be a farmer," they joked. Arun kept his eyes on the ground and the horizon. He let silence do the arguing for him. Silence, plus action, is a very sharp knife. Days became weeks. On the 10th morning he saw the first green thread pushing through the soil. He crouched down and touched it with one finger, gentle as a prayer. It was small, but it was proof. Not proof that life is easy, only proof that effort works. The sprout did not know about his past. It only knew water and light and persistence. He gave it those three things as if they were his 3 daily promises. There were bad days. A windstorm knocked down the bamboo fence. A dry spell made the ground hard. He overslept once and hated himself the whole day until he remembered that self-hatred is another soft lie. It feels like punishment but changes nothing. He set 2 alarms and put the clock on the other side of the room. He learned to make laziness expensive and action cheap. He kept a small notebook in his pocket. Each page had 3 lines: wake up, water, work. He drew a square beside each word and filled it with a black tick every time he finished. The pages filled with little black boxes. They looked like bricks. He realized he was building a wall, one that could keep his old life on the other side. When the new harvest season arrived, his field shone the way he had always imagined. The wheat heads nodded in the wind like polite guests. His mother stood in the doorway with her hand over her mouth. Tears found her quietly, the way rain finds a roof. "My son," she said, and nothing more. Sometimes praise is too big for words. Mr. Ramesh came walking slowly along the path, his stick tapping the dust. He ran one hand through the wheat and smiled without teeth. "So," he asked, "what did you pay this season?" "Sweat," Arun answered. "Early mornings, sore hands, a few mistakes." "And what did you get in return?" "Peace," he said, "and a new spine." They harvested together. The work was heavy, but heavy loads feel lighter when they are yours. In the evening, neighbors stopped to congratulate him. Some apologized for the jokes. Others pretended they had never made any. Arun did not hold it against them. Most people fear change, especially when it appears in a mirror. He sold part of the crop and kept part for his family. He set aside a small portion of money for repairs and another for seeds. He placed the rest in a tin box and hid it under a loose tile, not because he wanted to hide wealth, but because he wanted to protect commitment. The next season he repeated the process. When the rains came late, he learned patience. When pests arrived, he learned problem solving. When his back hurt, he learned to stretch, to rest properly, to begin again. Discipline does not mean never stopping. It means always returning. Years rolled forward like carts on a smooth road. Arun was no longer called the lazy boy. People called him Steady Arun, and steadiness is a compliment that carries the weight of gold. He did not become famous. He became reliable, and reliable people are the quiet railways on which families and towns move forward. With his savings, he patched the roof, painted the walls, and bought his mother a sturdy chair by the window. He began spending one evening each week with neighborhood children who struggled with their studies. He did not scold them when they said, "I'll do it tomorrow." He told them a story that began with a banyan tree and a broken promise, with a field of weeds and a packet of seeds, with a morning that started while the village still slept. One boy, thin and restless, returned after class one night and asked, "Sir, How do I stop being lazy? Arun looked at him for a long moment, remembering the weight of the plow in his own hands, the first cut of the soil, the first green thread of life. You don't stop laziness, he said. You start moving. Laziness dies on the road. If you wait to feel ready, you will never go. Read 1 page, do 5 push-ups, sweep 1 corner, plant 1 row. Let small steps become a path. What if I fail? The boy whispered. You will, Arun answered gently. Everyone fails. But laziness turns 1 failure into a lifetime. Discipline turns many small failures into progress. Choose which story you want to tell. Sometimes, late at night, Arun would stand in his yard and listen to the quiet. He would look toward Mr. Ramesh's house and see the soft circle of lamplight in the window. The old man's health had grown thin like paper, but his smile had not. On a cool evening, Arun brought him a small bag of wheat and some sweet tea. They sat together without hurry. Uncle Arun said, "Do you remember the day you gave me seeds?" "I remember the boy who thought tomorrow was his friend," Mr. Ramesh said, eyes shining. "I also remember the man who learned that today is enough." "Was laziness always my enemy?" Arun asked softly. "Not always," the old man replied. "Sometimes you rest because you are human. Sometimes you pause because you are wise. The danger is not in rest, it is in hiding inside it. Rest is a chair. Laziness is a bed you never leave." When Mr. Ramesh passed away, the village gathered in the shade of the banyan tree. Arun stood with the others, his hands folded, his heart full. The old man had left him no land, no money, only a sentence that had built an entire life. Tomorrow is a sweet thief. It was enough. As seasons continued, Arun opened a small learning room beside his home. On the wall he painted 3 lines in careful letters. Start small, start now, start again. Children traced the letters with their fingers. Parents read them and nodded. Travelers rested on the bench outside and copied them into the notes on their phones. The words were not clever. They were true. Sometimes he still felt the pull of his old comfort. On rainy mornings the blanket was heavy and soft, calling him back with a voice like honey. He smiled at it like you smile at an old friend you no longer trust. He placed his feet on the floor and stood up anyway. He had learned the difference between gentle and easy. Discipline can be gentle. It is rarely easy. One winter evening a storm cut the power. The village fell into darkness, and the wind moved across the roofs like a patient animal. Arun lit a lamp and sat by the window. He opened his notebook, the same kind he once used for ticks and boxes, and wrote a single paragraph for himself. Laziness is cheap at the beginning and expensive at the end. Hard work is expensive at the beginning and generous at the end. Pay early. He closed the notebook and watched the flame dance. He thought about the boy he had been, the man he had become, and the distance between them, the exact distance between tomorrow and today. That night he slept well. If you had met Arun years later, you might not have noticed anything extraordinary. He was not rich enough to shine or loud enough to echo. But if you had walked beside him at dawn, you would have seen the quiet dignity of a person who shows up. You would have felt the gravity of someone who built his life one small promise at a time. And if you had asked him for advice, he would not have given you a speech. He would have put a small packet of seeds in your hand and said, 1 row at dawn. So if you are listening now with a heavy heart, if your plans live only in your head, if your pillow knows more about your dreams than the daylight does, remember Arun's field. Remember the weeds that grew from nothing and the wheat that grew from effort. Remember the kind old man and the gentle warning that changed a life. Tomorrow is a sweet thief. Let today be the honest friend who tells you the truth. Get up, open the book, send the message, walk the first meter, wash the first dish, write the first line, plant the first seed, not because you feel ready, not because the weather is perfect, because the cost of waiting is greater than the price of beginning, and because peace, the deep kind, the lasting kind, belongs to people who choose to begin. One day, when you are older, someone younger will sit beside you and confess, "I keep telling myself I'll start tomorrow." You will smile, reach into your pocket, and find something to give them. It may be a story, it may be a sentence, it may be a seed. Whatever you give it with this quiet promise: there is no perfect time. There is only this lamp, this breath, this morning that is almost here. And for a person who decides, almost is enough. You do not need a new life, you need a new habit. Start small, start now, start again, and let the field inside you turn, row by row, into a harvest you can hold with both hands.